Dame is number one.
Notre Dame with a miracle win as the clock runs out.
Notre Dame has scored.
And quickly, literally, I think he sprinted up the stairs because the back surgery went so well, and he is fit and trim and ready to go. Coach Kelly, thank you very much for giving us some time. I think we will try to come up with incisive and interesting questions since you just spent almost 50 minutes down there.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to answer the same question
like 5 times.
5 times over and over. But, look, I've been at media conferences or press conferences or media day when nobody showed up, Reggie. So, see you guys. They're going to get bombarded. Manti and Tyler Eifert are heading down, so they'll get plenty of questions. But so it comes with the territory, and it's exciting time of year because it's football.
And I think certainly in your third year now, you agree the territory here is a little different in terms of the tremendous demands on your time, which you have handled very well. But I know in the offseason, you kind of stepped back and said, I need to refocus, and if I cut anybody short, it's got to be those outside demands and not my players. And you've spent a lot more time with your players. Not that you spent a lot before, but you've spent more.
No, I think I needed to. I think really when you look at the head coaching job at Notre Dame, it can distract you. And you really have to maintain that balance. Because I'm coaching because I want to be around these guys on a day-to-day basis. I want to have great relationships with them. I want to be able to help them succeed. And the best way for us to succeed as a program is if I'm involved. And so there are other responsibilities, and that comes with being the head coach here at Notre Dame, and I have no problem with that. But I think we've gotten to a better balance.
And we were kind of ended with that when we were talking about team and, the focus, the change in focus more toward the team. And I just know how the value of the head coach to the team is and understand the difference and kind of talk about team. For me, team has always been family, and I've never been I do media, but I'm a big fan of the team is the team. I mean, the outside is the outside. Team has to come first. So talk about what that team dynamic is that a lot of people don't really understand it if you've never been a part of it.
Well, I think it's a great question, and obviously you've got the insight from being in the locker room on championship teams. I think it's that. You keep your business amongst the team. You don't share outside information. You work through some good days and bad days, and I think that's probably more important. Is that when you have a couple of tough days, you keep it inside, and you keep it in the house, and you work through those, and I think that's where you get stronger as a team.
And as you built these relationships, and I don't want to be one of those guys who says I can stand on the sideline and practice and read all these things into things, but it does seem that some of the guys are a little bit more comfortable around you, a little bit more good-natured interaction as opposed to the past where maybe it was, well, he's the head coach, I can't joke with the head coach. How important is it for them to be a little bit more relaxed while still completely respecting the position that you have?
Well, I think it would be I think it's a lot with my style as well, because I'm there every day now, and I'm not jumping in and the conversation is halfway over, and then I try to say something and actually add to the confusion. So they know that I'm there every day. It's easier for them to come up and ask a question and say, hey, Coach, what about this? And so that conversation changes even from the individual because he now knows he can go to the head coach, and if we have that conversation, we're on the same page.
And as Jack was talking about, this is the third year, and but there's some transition among the coaching staff. How has that transition been? I know Chuck has been with you for a period of time, so how's that transition been easy? From him switching sides of the ball, and the different the terminology that you kind of talked about, the kids understanding, but there's also importance that the coaches are on the same page in the terminology, and how comfortable that transition been?
Well, I'll tell you what the dynamic. It's a paradigm shift. I was the guy that was out there driving it, and I don't have to drive it. Chuck can drive it, so I can spend more time with my players, and I speak Chuck. So, those Chicago guys, they talk real fast. Mm-hmm. I can decipher what he's telling the team, and then I can grab the quarterback, I can grab a receiver, a running back, say, hey, here's what he's talking about. It was the opposite last year, and this is the role that I'm most comfortable in, and that's why I moved Chuck into this position, because we had been down this road before, and it worked very well, and I expect it to work very well here at Notre Dame.
You have very subtly just described what I'm about to amplify here, but I think the fans need to know this. In the past, when you said you drove it, yours was the loud voice calling people out on almost every play for maybe not doing their jobs. Now it is Chuck's voice. You are there, but you're no longer the hair-raising voice necessarily. Chuck is. How does that help?
Well, it's the way it's supposed to be, in the sense that you want your coordinator driving it, and you want your head coach who's working with the quarterbacks to be, there teaching and mentoring. And not that Chuck is not that, he is, but you have to have one voice out there. And sometimes when the head coach jumps in, and Chuck knows when, if I'm going to jump in, there's no debate about what we're talking about. It's going to go this way. But I just think that in any good business, you let your coaches coach. And in this instance, you let Chuck coordinate it. On Saturday, it will be a team approach, and we'll be a better unit because of that.
Well, I definitely, like I said, you can kind of see the familiarity between the two of you. Also talk about how that trickles down to the other assistant coaches, that hierarchy, and it's not all resting on your shoulders.
Yeah. Well, I think it opens up the assistant coaches for dialogue. Chuck leans on them a lot more, whereas, I would probably say, all right, let's go do this, and there wasn't much conversation or debate about it. Now there's a great discourse in our staff rooms where a lot of coaches now can feel like, well, it's the old adage, you can't buy in truly unless you're allowed to weigh in. And these guys are weighing in on a day-to-day basis, so that gets you the buy-in.
In the Twitter world now, they have these things called hashtags, which I'm just learning about, frequent phrases. One of them could be Coach Kelly's offense. Coach Kelly's offense. Everybody hears this. Now you've got Chuck Martin, whose history is as a defensive coordinator in there. How are you guys meshing, and how do you complement each other?
Well, I think, Chuck's background defensively, what I like about it is that I've got more schemes that I can't use. Chuck has a unique ability to look at defenses and see where their weaknesses are, because he's been a defensive coordinator. So you take somebody like myself who's got more plays than we need, and then you add Chuck, who goes, hey, if we had something that could do this, that would really hurt him, I got that. So it's a great relationship, because he can look at it and say, here's where we need to attack him. What do you got, Coach? And I can open up a can of 18 different opportunities.
We were talking about all the demands on your time, and Media Relations Director Brian Harden's here, and he's just given me the signal that you have to go to your next obligation. But thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, it's always a pleasure.